Hello, everyone. Hi, I am your host. I am Jessica Koch, and this is another Profound Professionals. We have been bringing this interview series to you. Can you believe it? Because I still am having a hard time. I know it's 2024, but we have been coming to you with guests from all over the world. They help improve your personal life or grow your business. And we've been doing this for 7 years now. I'm super excited about that. We have hundreds and hundreds of interviews. And I believe by the end of 2024, we'll have reached the mark of 1,000 guests from across the globe. So that is pretty exciting. We're going to start with our amazing guest, Atlas, here. And I don't have the introduction sentence. So guess what? This is live. We are live, and here and away we go. Atlas has really just a bank of experience, a lot stemming from the military. I have a heart there. Grew up a Navy. Well, I grew up a Navy brat. Don't anyone message me about calling us brats. That was what I was told we were called when I was growing up. So if you don't like it, send me a love note and a smiley face or something. But my very first marriage, I was married for 7 years to someone in the Air Force and was overseas and during Operation Provide Comfort. And one of the 7 children I have, one of my amazing sons is active duty Army, and he's in special ops. So, and I was actually in ROTC in high school. So I never officially signed up myself, but let me just tell you, the military has touched my life all my life. And I have a lot of military memories. So I'm going to introduce Atlas and let him share a little bit about himself and what he's got going on right now. So go ahead.
Yeah, Atlas Aultman, #1 best-selling author in 13 categories on Amazon. Personal motivation, self-improvement, leadership, management, business, all of that. I took my stories from my previous time in the military, working with special ops, the White House, so all of the past commands, and I boiled them down into a 400-page book that I made 100 pages. And people like the smaller version of it better. And so it sold really well, apparently. That put me on a TED stage where I share one key message, which I promise to share with your audience later as we talked before the show. So that's me in a nutshell. Right now, all I do is speak on stages and podcasts, and I spread the lessons that I put in the book and am putting in the next book. I have master classes that I give to people as well, but I don't promote any of that. It's all word of mouth.
Well, yeah, I think based on introduction is how I have worked the best too. So before we introduce Mona, I want to make sure we're covering with you. So a little bit about, I think you were going to share us a story on some of your managing money. We want to cover with the audience with you. A little bit more about your customer journey. So you have master classes, you have this book, you have this TED Talk coming, or is on and is up and ready to go, so people can catch it now.
Yeah, well, not yet. TED actually flagged my TED Talk. I had to prove that I had the life that I had.
Right.
So I sent in letters from like the chief of staff of the White House, handwritten notes from 4-star generals, 3-star generals, 2-star generals. Just I had to prove that what I was saying on the stage was actually true, which gives lots of credibility to TED. So whenever you watch a TED Talk, it's been thoroughly checked. And so they checked me. I was like, no, I really lived this life. Here's some pictures. This is me in the Oval. This is me in Air Force One. And I was like, I didn't Photoshop this. You could check. I'm on. Here's my medical records that says I got hurt. No, I didn't go that far, but you get it. Like I had to really prove that I had these journeys.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned that I managed billions of dollars, and they made me prove that too.
Yeah.
So it's not one of those things where you can just get up and say anything on a TED stage, apparently.
Well, and obviously it was also pretty darn juicy and good. So keep your eyes peeled for when it comes and it is released again. You're going to want to watch it. You're going to want to share it and
Yeah.
promote it. Um, what else can you tell us about your journey before we move into the tip that you want to share with everyone?
Yeah, so my journey is basically I didn't limit myself, and I see a lot
Mhm,
of people doing that. I
mhm,
didn't put limits on what I can and cannot do. I asked the question, and here's an example. One of my friends told me, "Hey, you should be on Joe Rogan." So I sent Joe Rogan a note, and I said, "Hey, dude, like one of my friends said I'd be a good show," and he replied back and was like,
mhm,
"Hey, let me check this out, and I'll get back to you." That's not limiting yourself. A lot of people
mhm,
wouldn't do that. And that's just my recent example. I always did that. From a very early age, my mom instilled that in me. And I put that on the
mhm,
TED stage. Like my mom, she was a powerhouse, man. But I made her mad. I always, I'm not the perfect son over here. I made her mad. And what she would tell me on many occasions is like, you got to go after it. You got to be around the right people. And then I heard that regurgitated again and again and again. And I'm going to share
mhm,
that tip with your audience because that one has brought me great success and it's allowed me not
mhm,
to limit myself. And then it's opened up doors that most people just don't get to walk through because they don't even approach the door, which is just sad. And I know a lot of your previous guests have talked about the successes that they've had. And when
mhm,
they talk about when they approach that door, they don't say it like I'm saying it, but whenever they come up to that door and then they just go through it, and they're like, that's really what changed everything for me, you know?
mhm.
Um, so I like hearing the stories, all the successful people that you bring in as they approach the door. I can be like, oh, here comes. They're coming up to the door. And then they walk through it and they're like, this isn't so bad. Actually, this is really good. So that's what I'd offer. That's what I'd
That's
offer.
interesting too, because that's actually I'm in a women's well, it's only because there's only women in it right now, not because men aren't welcome. But we meet weekly to this book club, and right now we're doing. We usually do some sort of improve ourselves book, and we're all
Mhm.
business owners and women.
Yep.
So we're doing Dean Gracioso's Millionaire Habits right now,
Yeah,
and
he's
we were
good.
just talking about today getting past that, once you step into the giant pool that maybe looks so scary,
Mm,
if you start swimming around, you're like, oh, the water's not as cold it was when I first got in here, and
that's right.
it's not as deep, and oh, it's easier to swim than I thought. So once you actually do that, and I was saying, yeah, I have a great example of that. Like I had avoided like a project at the house. I was like, oh, it's just such a big mountain, and I just don't even know where to start. And it literally took me, my 12-year-old daughter and my 7-year-old granddaughter 1 hour, and place was transformed. Vacuumed, cleaned out, all the boxes were broken down, like everything went where it went. I was like, how come I prolonged that for so long? So sometimes it's
Yeah.
just the fear of stepping through to the other side. And you
Hey,
guys in the military, you're totally trained to overcome fear for sure.
I know I am not. I have plenty of stories of being scared. It's
Yeah.
what you do when you're scared that matters. And
Yeah.
I've had plenty of training on doing the right thing when I'm not feeling like I should be. And
Yeah.
that's a difference. That's something you have to push yourself. But Dean talks about that in his books and in his programs too.
Mhm.
Um, there's a reason why he's so profound in a lot of the things in his approaches. And
Mhm.
habits are really it. That book is a
Mhm.
masterpiece. You're gonna love it if you
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
finished it already. It's
No,
a
we're
great
not.
one.
We're about halfway through. What we do is we read a little, we do some of the exercises, we
Yeah,
share, we talk, and then we do a little more. So we really go through it at a snail's pace, but it's just so much deeper and so much more profound that way. My daughter, my husband and I tell our youngest daughter, who's 12, she had to try out for a play, and she was
yeah,
the lead in Alice for one of them. Well, she also had to sing because this was a musical, and she
yeah,
hadn't done that before in front of her classmates, right? And we told her that, courage isn't not having fear, but it's doing
yeah,
what you're afraid of, even though you're afraid, and giving your very best. You just do your very best. And she got one of the powerful roles that actually has a solo. So, so
yes,
I
yes.
know.
Proud mama moments.
I know, so good, right? So we know what's going on in your world.
Yeah.
Atlas, and we know customers can work with you from a number of directions. They can
Yeah.
check out the TED Talk once it's released. They can grab the book for a whopping 99 cents. They
Yep.
can come to one of your master classes and work with you to take some of this great military knowledge and experience and translate that into some profound, potentially major business
Hmm.
shakeup for helping you take the next level in leadership and in growth. And you gave us an amazing tip of, just take the step through the door, even though it might be scary. I actually had a dream once. I try not to talk this much for myself, but I can't. I have to share this because it's so perfect.
You
Uh,
have to.
I have to. I was walking on clouds in my dream. I was just walking across on clouds, and
Okay.
God was like having a conversation with me. And I don't remember much of that part of the conversation, but I got to the end of the clouds, and
He's like, don't step on that cloud. That one's a rain cloud.
there was no clouds left. And he said,
What?
just take a step. I've got you. And
Mm.
I took a step in that space that had no cloud, and I was able to keep walking. And I just remember that you ever go on one of those drop towers in one of the
Yeah.
amusement parks where your whole stomach and heart and everything come up to your ears and
Yep.
out of your chest, and that butterfly feeling? That's what I felt, but it also felt like amazing, scary and amazing. So that I had a dream like that, and I
That's
took the
awesome.
step. So yay me.
Yeah, and you're here to tell us about it. See, that's an
That's right.
amazing thing. You know what? Like, that really does happen in real life, and you've taken that step so many times that it's probably second nature to you. That feeling that you just described so perfectly was
Yeah.
probably something that you've described to someone that you've helped multiple times, because that's a familiar feeling, and the way
Mhm.
you described it tells me you've done it multiple times in your real life. I'm just saying. So,
Well,
thanks for
and
sharing that.
now that you're sharing that, my husband and I are doing brand new things this year,
What are you
and
doing?
we're doing some bigger investing than we've ever done. And
Okay.
we just did a big investment in a company that we're working with, and we're also doing some more real estate investing too. But that's the same feeling in my
Yeah.
gut when we were doing that. I was like, oh my gosh, are we going to do this? This is the right decision. Like you have to pray about it. You research the
Yeah.
company. Is this going to actually yield the money? Is it going to save the money for the children? Is it going to be the
Yeah.
long generational wealth you're looking for? And so I think those are some of the same kinds of things that happen in business in all kinds of aspects.
I agree. I think people don't write books for that reason. They're afraid of what other people
Mhm.
think and
Mhm.
they will say. And you know what? If you're on the show and you're thinking about writing a book, write it. You know how many
Mhm.
times I've been approached that said, "Hey, you got an error in your book." What author doesn't?
Right?
But read the cover. It says bestseller on it. So I'm sure you can read past the error, you know? And then I had another person that was like, "You misspelled this." Where's your book? Oh, you don't have one. Oh,
Well, you know what I
so
was worried
come
about?
back when you have one and tell
I
me
was
about the
Yeah, and
errors.
you'll go
Come
find
on.
the spelling error in their book. Um,
I will.
um, for me, it wasn't that the fear. Well, I haven't written a book yet, but I've been featured in a book, and I will write a book
You
when it's
better.
time for me.
You
But
you
I
have a
am
story to
also good.
tell.
I'm also good at listening to what's now, and
Mm,
I'm very spiritual, and I've been
yeah,
told as far as I'm listening, not yet, but soon. So he's got other things for me right at the moment that
yeah,
are just more important than that
yeah,
for me. But I almost didn't start the company 8 years ago because I was like, oh, I'm a sales and marketing expert. There's the Zig Ziglars and Brian Tracy's of the world,
yeah,
and
well,
and what do they need another sales expert out there for? And because there's already so many people who know that. But my experience and my community and my knowledge is so unique, and so that I'd say that too when we're talking about tips.
yeah.
So that
The
don't
best the
don't
best
let.
way to sell right now. What is that?
Mhm,
Not sell.
mhm,
That's
mhm.
that's the best way. That's today. You know what I mean? Everyone's a freaking sales expert. Well,
Yeah.
just don't sell anything and watch how things happen. And I guarantee you, if you've got a product that's worth it, people will
Yeah.
find you. After you do one, it multiplies. It
That's
multiplies.
very, very true. Same with
And then
talk.
you run out of time. You run
That's
out of time.
that's exactly true. Well, that's when you hire a team. I also have a VA agency.
Yeah,
And then you
that's how
hire
you
a
do that.
team.
That is
And that was a
exactly
nice
how you
segue
do
for
that.
that. Very good, very good. I didn't even pay him for that, by the way. All right, so, we talked about your tip, and now I would
Yep.
love to talk about, a cause that you care about that
Yeah.
is outside of us, and you're real big about outside of yourself. So I love that about you. But sometimes I have to draw some of my guests out to say, okay, your business is awesome, you're amazing sauce, but what do you care about beyond and bigger than you?
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to speak to a cause. There are a lot of ways to insert yourself, and you can do that in any way. I'm not going to
Mm.
name one person or one organization, but what I
Okay.
am going to tell you is that veteran suicide is a real thing.
Yeah.
People go through a lot in life, and
Mhm.
they get told that they have a problem, and then they believe it. And one of the things I've been sharing recently is the renaming of the words post traumatic stress syndrome,
Mm.
and then them naming it PTSD.
Mhm.
So it's post traumatic stress. It's a
Mhm.
syndrome, not a disorder. It's
Mm.
not a disorder. And so many times, and they even try to do it to me.
True.
They pin it on veterans. And they're like, "You have a disorder." I don't have a disorder. I was trained to do something that a lot of people can't do, won't do, and just are not going to. So whenever I did it, don't tell me I have a disorder,
Mhm.
because I believe that is just funneling into a lot of the suicides we unfortunately see in our
Mm.
community as veterans, as war veterans, and people are
Mhm.
having to deal with things, and then they're being told you're not worth it.
Mhm.
I'm glad you gave up your life, your family, your friends, and everything else that you had. Thank you for your sacrifices, but you have a disorder. And that it's hard to hear. So if you can contribute to anybody who's helping veterans
Mm.
not kill themselves, anybody, do it. $5, $10, $20, your time,
Yes.
do it.
Love
Because
that.
there's a lot of them out there and they're all helping. So please help one of them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that if you don't have a veteran directly in your life, go adopt one, go find one, make them
Right?
part of your family, make them part of
That's good.
make them part of your life. I love that. So I am a giant bookworm, and we know you wrote a book. We're going to cover that in a minute, but I love to hear about books that were written by other people that inspired my guests, either their personal life or their business, or they just really connected to this book and, want to tell and shout to the world, you got to read this book. What do you
Yeah.
got for us? I know you have something.
I have a ton of them.
I
But
You can send me a
the
list. I'll add it to the list.
the one that really made me like write my own book
Mm,
was David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me.
mm,
And I don't care for his language.
mm.
He's a sailor. I went to the Naval War College. I know that world. I know how they speak. I was not, my mama taught me different, So
Yes.
I read through all of that, but the whole core of his message is mental toughness. And how
Mm,
you get that is putting yourself in situations that you're not comfortable. And how you get that is
mm,
to go through those doors. And how you
mm,
get that is to accept the challenge. And then if you fail, don't stop.
mm,
All of those things come out in his book. And when I wrote mine, I started socializing it in the special operations community. It got to Harvard Business Review, and I started socializing it with him. And then I heard him say, "Don't let anybody publish your book because they'll freaking own you." Only he used a different F word.
mhm,
Um, and I was like, "Oh, I got to pull that back." So I pulled it back, and I started self-publishing my own books. And then that's when I really realized people are going to have opinions. You can't please everybody, and you can
mhm,
put this out into the world, or you can hold it inside you. And if you
mhm.
just help one person, just one person with whatever you wrote, and you change someone's life, what are you holding on to that for? I
Yeah.
mean, what are you holding on to that for? For
Well,
yourself? You're not going to get it generational wealth out of that. My book's tied
uh,
to a bank account that's got my kids in it. So
yeah.
all of the royalties, which isn't much, because I don't
Mhm.
charge, I charge 99 cents for my book. How much do you think I'm getting per book? I just want you to be helped,
Yeah.
So if I can do that, bam. But if I would have had a publisher,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have been able to do. I can't put my book at 99 cents with a publisher. The
Mm-mm.
publisher that I went through, I was like, "Hey, this is my plan," and he's like, "Okay, that's good. I just want to publish your book because it's going to be a bestseller." I'm like, "Let's do it then." So like, I have total control over it. But
Mhm.
there's a couple other publishers that'll do that for you. But if you can publish your own book, 5 years ago, the whole world shifted. You
Mhm.
know, 5 years ago, I couldn't be a best-selling author. I had to go through a publisher to be a best-selling author. But now you can promote your own book. You can push your own book. You can get your circle who knows you to read your story, which they just don't have time to listen to. But whenever they're running, whenever they're mowing the grass, whenever they're washing the car, whenever they're doing the podcast time, right? They got time to listen to whatever it is that you learned, that you gleaned, that you gained. And then you spend some time making that really short and condensed. You could read my book in 5 minutes. You just go to the end and you read the chapter summaries. And if you want to read how Secret Service accused me of stealing one of their cars, I didn't steal it. I mean, I took it, but I didn't steal it. It was there. I had the keys. I mean, if you want to read the story about that, it's in there. You know what I mean? I told, they were like, when you get back to American soil, I'm going to take you down. You're going to get Grand Theft Auto charges. I'm like, who is this? And they were like, special agent. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen, but you try that. Let's see where that goes. And they ended up calling the special agent in charge. And he was like, Aultman? Isn't that the guy who runs through doors all the time for us? No, that guy didn't. No. Yeah. It's all in there. I mean, I have stories in there if you want to be entertained, but really the meat and potatoes is right at the end, and you can read it in 5 minutes and you can apply it right away.
Well, give us the title of your book again.
It's called Rule of Three.
Rule of Three.
Yeah, it's a leadership approach that works. I'm not talking theories. I actually applied this. I put it on a TED stage. They brought me in to the TED stage for this very reason. And it was to share this message that you can take away immediately. You want me to give it to you? I'll give it to your audience.
Go ahead. Give it to us.
Here it is. As a leader, as a person, you can only handle 3 things. That's the max. 3 things. If you really want it done, you focus on 1. And as a leader, you focus on these 3 things. And everyone does it. If you have a problem, you say, how much is it going to cost to go away? When can it be done? And then you say, who's going to do it? The problem isn't the questions, it's how they're asked. You should flip it and you should say, who can help me solve this problem? And then they'll tell you how much time and money it's going to take. And if you do it that way, every time, it takes less money, it takes less time. And then the person who has passion for that is fueled, and you're going to see them thrive and push it faster than you would ever imagine because you gave them the opportunity. But most people aren't looking at who they have on their team. They're looking at who they have on their team that they hired them to do something specific. If you pigeonhole your players, instead of figuring out where their passions are, if you pigeonhole them, they will only do what you are telling them to do. But if you find out what their passion is and then you fuel that, they're going to do what you hired them to do. Plus, they're going to do more, and you're going to move faster, and you're going to manage billions of dollars like I did because you're going to have to, because everyone's going to want whatever it is that you're selling. They're going to want to be helped by you because you can actually help, not just saying it. You did it. So that's it. That's the book.
I love that, Atlas, and I was so enjoying having you. Now, we're going to come back to you before we close the show out for a final piece of information and inspiration. So I know you can cook up another one for us, but before we go for that, I would love for us to introduce Mona. Mona is an amazing human, and she is the tech solution if you are struggling. Mona, welcome, and how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me here. I have
now tell us where you are. Tell us where you are.
I'm in Frankfurt, Germany right now.
Yeah, so I lived in Bitburg. I was stationed in Bitburg, Germany, for a while when I went on my tour with my first husband. So yeah, that was an interesting experience to live in another country, and also a very beautiful one. I liked Volts marching. That was awesome. So that was a lot of fun, and the towns and the culture and everything was just so beautiful. So can you tell us all about your business and how you got into this space?
Oh, I keep it short, okay? And my business is called Work on Your Business. How I sliced into that is pretty much I stumbled into working in my business as well when I started out. And then I learned maybe that's not so smart, because if I work in my business, I don't see where I'm going. And I'm stumbling from one event to the next, and that is not so much fun. So I flipped it around, and coming from a project management background, so a lot of the things that Atlas just shared Sound very familiar. This is how projects go wrong if you start with the end not in mind, or with like who's the right person to ask that question, and you calculate your entire cost wrong from the beginning. And you wonder why it's always over budget and taking longer. Wonder why. So yeah, so I worked in consulting for many, many years, worked with some of the biggest companies in Germany, like Siemens, like all the DAX listed companies, Allianz, all these big players, and implemented IT solutions for them, which I sliced into. So I didn't study IT per se, I studied business, and I was hired during my university time for a very funny job. They asked me, are you able to ask stupid questions? And are you afraid to talk to people? And I said, I'm not afraid to ask stupid questions, and I totally can talk to strangers. Cool, you're hired. And I was like, what am I supposed to do here? Basically, they just let me walk through 120 people in different IT functions, and so hotline, administrators, so all the spectrum, And I had to just watch them work and see, like, what are they doing? How are they navigating? Does it make sense? Then I had to summarize all of that, go to the seller, to the IT guys that I only heard before from that they exist. And I met all the prejudices. I met them, and I was like, interesting people. And that's how I sliced into IT at the end of the day. It was a lot of fun. And I ended up getting my next job because of all of that I was doing there, and basically learning about how do you actually implement solutions, and really understanding where the issues, where functions not working together, and doing that then for many, many big companies until I started my own company, starting out with not even knowing who I could actually help. Because I think when you start your own business and you work in your area of expertise, everybody around you has the same skills as you. So they would not pay for your skills because they're like, yeah, I can do that myself. I don't need to pay you for that. So I needed to stumble into my clients on events. So I read a book back in the time, and the book said, like, there's a workshop. I was like, let me just go there. And then I looked it up and said, like, oh, there is one. Okay, cool, let me go. And then I stumbled into people who were so different from me that I was like, I didn't even know such people existed until that point. And I was like, wow, that's a new world here. And then I started really figuring out, okay, who can I help? And realizing that there are a lot of people who don't know tech to the degree that I do, and that I can really help them, often with very simple things already. That's how I started a business. So I actually tried to outsource it in the beginning, realized this is the wild, wild west. I mean, coming from big corporates, you're used to certain standards, and then running into like the entrepreneur world, you're like, okay, there are no standards here. It's really interesting. Like, you hire people, they disappear. I was like, where are you? What are you doing? Why are you not coming back to me? So, and then I was so upset. And because I have this background, I was like, let me just do it myself. Like, I was at this point where I was like, so screw it, I do it myself. And I just like did some courses, learned it myself. And then clients like approached me, was like, who did your website? Me? Can you do mine as well? I guess so, if you like that. I guess I can do one for you as well. That's how I started actually slicing into doing such type of services, helping people to actually do that.
And is entrepreneurs your key target market? Is it small business owners and
Exactly.
people like
It's
this?
small business owner, mainly the ones who are not so tech savvy, which typically happens to be mindset coaches, relationship coaches, or people who work a lot with people, right? Who are like, okay, I don't like tech. Like, if I look at tech, I get headache. That's typically the people who benefit the most from it.
All right. So if tech gives you a headache, give Mona a call. You don't go take 2 aspirin. We want to go holistic. Go meet with Mona and see if she can make a solution for you. So what is the customer journey experience like? Do you work with them one-on-one? Are you working in workshops? Is it online courses? What is their journey with you when they come to find a smoother tech experience in their business?
Yeah. It used to be a lot of one-on-one and projects. However, with AI now being available, like, this is the biggest playground of my life so far. I really love that, because like now tech really becomes so easy that everybody can use it. So instead of me doing it for clients, how I used to do it in the past, and then they still being stuck with me because, they just couldn't handle it. Now I can say, do your freaking website yourself. Just click on regenerate until you like it, change some pictures, change the text, and done. And you just let me know where else you're stuck, and then we can solve that piece out. So it's really going to more into a training approach of making the people being self-sufficient, because I'm a really big fan of like, don't just like give it to people. Don't give people a fish, let them eat once, but rather teach them how to fish and let them do it over and over again themselves without having to come back to me for every little question, because they just figure it out themselves, because it is really getting easier, which AI provides. So now it's actually more group coaching, training program. I'm just releasing next week actually a step-by-step online course, how to build your funnels using AI. So really fun stuff. I couldn't have done that before because it would have been super complicated, but now it's just like, ask the right question, take the right tool, click that button, done. So it's awesome.
I love that. But you know what? No matter how self-sufficient tech becomes, I'm still going to say, great. I have 3 of my lead people on my team. You can teach that too. I will be kayaking. I love to kayak, and I love to paint. I love to be in the outdoors. And so I'd rather have someone else learning from Mona the super simple things. So I still say you train someone on your team to work with Mona, learn all those great things, and you're still not, you know, if you're the captain of the boat, right, Atlas, you got to have all those people down below taking care of the steam engines and all the stuff down there. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean. Okay, so now we talked about your customer journey. We talked about the amazing thing you do to help people. How about a tip for everybody? Atlas is on the edge of his seat. He can't wait to hear your tip.
I mean, you actually just mentioned it. It is a tip that I really also learned too late. It cost me a lot of pain to go through that. It's like, don't try to do everything yourself. Like, just don't, you know, like I could have been so much faster if I had not done everything myself. I mean, it came in my point because of pain points, like I couldn't find somebody, right? But if you can have people like Jessica and her team to actually get in, you can move so much faster. You know, I'm a big advocate of, you need to understand the core process because it is your business. I'm a strong believer of, you should know what's going on in your business. Like if you're that detached that you don't know, you should at least have some numbers in place to know if stuff goes wrong, right? And not leave everything to the team, like at least have some checks and balances in place. But yes, of course, for the doing, you don't have to do everything yourself. Give it to somebody. And I mean, this is a great skill set for a team to develop, to say like, hey, who likes to like go deeper in that topic? Like, here's a training course, do it and tell me what you learned. Give me the top 3 points I need to know about that, right? And so it's really, don't do it yourself. You're you're slowing yourself down for no reason.
I'd say, you know, you're going to speed up. Go to Atlas Masterclass, work with Mona, reach out to them, check out the TED Talk, get the book. Now, a cause. This is another reason from the day one, from show one, we always took a moment, took a pause to step away from just talking about ourselves and us and reaching out into the community, into the world. And what causes on your heart, Mona? I would love to hear.
I'm doing it similarly like Atlas. I'm not going to say you which organization, but like, what is a big thing for me is helping children get along in this world. And for me personally, this is what helped me a lot in my teenage and child years, was exercise. Find the sport that you love doing, you know, and provide a space for kids to actually try different sports. You may have the next world champion, I don't know, in golfing in your neighborhood, but because they never touched the golf bat, how shall they know? So like, and I mean, I think sports helped me develop all the discipline I needed for being an entrepreneur, like learning to lose. That sucks in the beginning, right? So it's something you have to learn as a child. Like, okay, it's okay. The others are sometimes better. You know, how do I handle that? It's about like learning to be in a team, even if you don't like each other always. You know, you don't have to love your team, but you have to get along with them. And when it gets down to business, you have to stand together no matter what, because you're a team. So you learn a lot of social skills, but also a lot of discipline, a lot of how do I go through challenges? And I think this is so important. I think people quit way too early in life often. They haven't even really tried. And they're already like, I can't do it. Like, try again. Like, how many times did you really try it? And I think sports, really shapes this mindset of like, don't quit, try it again, work harder, and then you will make it. And that's usually what I'm most proud of in terms of achievement, is the things I really worked hard for.
What sport did you play, Mona?
I did judo. So I did like self-defense. I think every person should, I hope that Atlas says the same. I think every person should be able to defend themselves. Every person in the world. It makes my life very safe because I know I can hurt a person really bad if they get too close to me. And interestingly, I was never attacked in my life. I think because you send that energy out, like, don't touch me, it's dangerous, stay away.
Yeah,
and I've never been attacked in my life. So I really recommend everybody, if you haven't done a self-defense course, take one. It helps a lot in life.
My daughter, my husband's a black belt and her godfather. And my daughter, who's 12, has taken it since, literally as a baby, she had a gi. Like, wasn't training then. Okay, it was just really cute. But since she could toddle and walk, I swear she started practicing inside me. Literally one night, my daughter kicked so hard, she kicked my husband in the back. He woke me up and said, "Why are you hitting me?" I said, "What are you talking about?" It was the baby kicking him. And she's also a soccer star, so she could have been practicing her soccer. So she's in all year travel soccer. They play in the winter indoors. They play futsal. So yeah, I love the sports thing. I played softball and I was a cheerleader. And yes, that is a sport. We took a championship trophy, almost as tall as I was, at the University of Maryland, out of all the things. And we practiced our little saddle shoes off, just let me tell you. So
I would bet that you had more injuries than I had in judo, because the first thing you learn in judo is how to not injure yourself.
Yeah,
so
right. I was the top of the pyramid for sure. Were you the top of the pyramid too, Atlas? What sport did you play?
I played cheerleading. No, I didn't.
No.
No, I played football, soccer. I did track, pole vault, wrestling. I did a lot of wrestling. I took karate when I was in high school. I did a lot. I still do.
Yeah. And my kids all were told, on your point, on your tip, or your cause, because you're talking about this for your cause. They were told when they started a sport, you play to the end. You don't have to renew. You don't have to play next year, but you don't quit. You play. You're part of a team. You play to the end. And we pushed my son to do that with wrestling, and he took regional championships. One of the top moments of his little life. I mean, it was, and for my son too, my husband too, because he was a wrestler, and it was just quite an experience for him to take that win. And he also played football, and both my sons played football, and they were both really good. My one son, Nathan, was called the secret weapon on the team because he was a little smaller, but man, was he fast and could he maneuver, right? And my other son was, I don't know, the one that runs the ball over the touchdown line all the time. What is that one?
Depends. It all depends.
Anyway, he was one of those that ran it over, and I would get so excited. I couldn't even sit down during the games. I was running along the side of the field. So it was very exciting to watch my children play sports, and I agree with you 100%. So how about we are creating an ultimate book list of all the guests. When we get that 1,000 guest goal that we're reaching for, we're gonna have 1,000 guests who list books and authors that inspired them and their own books. Like, can you imagine how great this ebook of books is gonna be? I am so excited for it to come out. And we're gathering, and now we're gonna get Mona. So Mona, what's the book that inspired your life or helped you grow your business?
One book that helped me a lot was The 4 Agreements. It's from Don Miguel Ruiz. And the thing that really stuck with me in that book was especially one of the agreements, which was, if somebody is throwing a poisonous arrow on you, it's your choice if you want to pick it up or not. So you can just choose to say, it's not for me, and just let it go by, versus taking it all in. And I think too many, and I was also in that stage when I was reading that book, I was taking them in. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, it's my choice whether I feel offended or whether I feel attacked, versus, hey, the person could have just had a bad day. It might have had nothing to do with me at all. Let it just go by. It made my life as a project manager in big companies much easier, because I was just like, they just had a bad day, has nothing to do with me, and just let it pass by. So that was really, if you have struggles with like feeling attacked sometimes, that is really a tip that helps amazingly well.
Well, the 4 agreements is great. And I love that you pulled that point out, because I did a lot of, in my sales career, managing territories, training teams, taking them out into the field, handling big corporate accounts. We handled some projects for Verizon and Disney, and it was a lot of door-to-door business, right? And one day I was training a new person, and we went into this place, and the deal was you said as far as you could go, and then before you started to flounder or drown, then the trainer would step in and help with the spiel until you got it all the way through and you were pretty comfortable, right? This is wear your boots and learn it kind of a training. But you had a support person, right? And so we got in there and we started to talk, and before the person, poor person, very new and very nervous and kind of shaking in their boots a little, the guy totally reamed us out. And you had been proud of me, Atlas, almost like a superhero was protecting me. I slid in front of the other person, and I just like a shield, and just took it. And I just listened. I said, oh, we understand. We sorry that we're bothering you. We stepped out and we went to the next door. Well, next door, the guy was so sweet and so nice, and the newbie said, I'm so grateful for your kindness. You were so nice. The guy next door was a little hard. And the guy stopped and he paused for a moment, and he said, oh, please forgive my friend. He just received word he had lost his son. And so you just don't know, like you said, Mona, what's going on in someone's life. So it had nothing to do with these 2 nice ladies who had walked in off the door to talk to him for a moment. He just was in pain. And so you often don't know what pain is hiding behind someone's unkind words. And so we do just what Mona said. And the 4 agreements, what a great book to bring to us. Thank you for that. Mona, tell us about the book that you wrote.
I actually wrote one book in German, which I'm not going to propose because it's German.
Hey, there are German people listening. Are you kidding? I've been Norway, Sweden, Australia. I've been Ireland. I've been interviewing people from all over the world, so all languages.
Yeah, but I don't want to be discriminatory. So I'm going to give another book that I co-written. So I was writing it with 3 of my business friends, and it's called The Adventures of Entrepreneurship. Crisis is what you make of it. So it's because this is a little bit also like my life motto. Like, I mean, it's just a crisis when you think it's a crisis, or when you don't have the means to handle it. And I think Atlas knows this even much better. Like, if you're in a situation that you have not been trained for, it feels much more like a crisis. And if you've done it 100 times, then it's like, for other people, it may be like, oh my God, how could you do that? If you've trained for it, it's like business, daily business, right? Yeah. So what we experience as a crisis is usually a lack of not knowing how to handle it. And this puts us very often under stress. So, and so it's really like starting with you having the mindset right and saying, okay, let me first of all take a breath. I usually and I have this moments, I just say, okay, coffee time, get a coffee, get out of this mindset, and then look at the situation again with a clean mind and say, okay, is it really that dramatic as it looks like? Can I still rescue it somehow? And then really look at it. Okay. I think one thing I learned when I was volunteering as a kid, as a young adult, when I worked in IT, I worked with really big companies, and everything is always escalation all the time. And when you are in this environment, everything feels like a pressure, and it has to be handled immediately. And I started volunteering on the weekend, working with teenagers. And they had so many different problems, like, the person, my best friend, doesn't talk to me anymore, or the person I'm in love with at 11 years is not liking me, like the world is going down.
The world is over. Yeah.
And then you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, and I'm thinking about escalations at work. Like, what is really at risk? Yeah, it costs money. Yeah, it takes time, but nobody's going to die. Like, let's face it, it's not as critical as they always make it seem. And it starts putting things in relation to say, like, is it really that big thing that they always make out of it? Or is it just like an artificially created bubble that actually is not reality? And if you really look at it from the outside, you're like, why is everybody panicking all the time? know?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I think Atlas has been in much different situations where really a life was at risk, you know? That's a totally different ball game, you know?
Yeah.
And then people in their nice little suits, they always act like somebody's going to die. I was like, guys, come on.
I've always told my kids, you know, I've done my best to raise them well, but what I've always said to them, Mona, is as long as there is life, there is hope. If you're
Yeah.
still breathing, I don't care how bad it is. I don't care if you think no one on the planet can understand. I don't even, you know, even if it's the worst thing you can think of, and I won't list those things so that we won't get our show shut down, but even if it's the worst case scenario, you come to us, we'll figure it out. We'll take the next step because as long
Yeah.
as you're alive, there's still hope. There's still hope, and there's a solution to be found. So I love that that was what you wrote about in your book, Mona. All right, you know what, you guys, this interview was more of a treat for me than ever, but I just know it's been a treat for you and you watching. Our hearts are so full of gratitude because you've hit that share button. You don't know who needed to hear this message, who needs this service, who needs to watch this book, check out this TED Talk. I was going to say, read the TED Talk and watch the book. You know, swipe that, reverse it, and be with Mona so that they don't have a tech headache. You know, you just don't know whose life you will make an impact on. And you know what? Also, you watching may have been inspired today to do something for a cause, any cause, maybe even just be nice to someone next to you because we took that moment to talk about cause and caring about others outside of ourselves. So, we thank you as an audience. And if you're watching and you've written a book or you're a business expert or you can help someone's personal life be better, then maybe you should be on the show. Reach out to me and my team. We'd love to feature you. And don't worry, I'm not going to let these guests get away without giving us one final piece of information or inspiration before we say goodbye. Atlas, what do you got for us? You've been cooking on a long time. Mona's got to come up with the quick. She's got to come in with a quicker, but Atlas, you go first.
All right, here it is. Since you've been listening to the whole show, this is a treat. This is going to change your life immediately. And it's a connection that happens between your brain and your body through something we start when we start living. And it's called breathing. So in special ops and a lot of schools, they teach you what's called box breathing. And it's breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds, breathe out for 3 seconds, hold for 3 seconds. And that's a box. And what that allows you to do is connect your brain to your body and then enact on the training that Mona was talking about. Whatever it is that you're trained to do is going to happen whenever you do that, whenever you really and you on. That is in my book. It's called 3 breathing. It's breathing in and holding at any moment. It could be 2, 3, 4, whenever you feel like it, because your brain will immediately take control of your body. And then you hold until you feel the connection, and you will, and then release. You can do that when you get on a stage. You can get that before a big presentation, anytime you're going to go on a podcast, or anytime you're stressed out. Immediately, you can connect your brain to your body, and you will feel better with 3 breathing. So there you go.
Beautiful. I love that. All right, Mona, pressure's on. A final piece of information or inspiration before we say goodbye today.
I'm going to piggyback on what Atlas just said. And like once you have your breathing in place and you are not that stressed out anymore, I recommend you to lean into the change. Because right now we are really living in one of the most fascinating times in life. I think it's the first time really in history that we have a plain level playing field. And AI really enables that. You don't need to have 100,000 employees anymore. You don't need to have a lot of deep pockets to actually get things done. You just need your brain, which helps when you have a clean brain. So if you have the breathing, make sure you have, your full capacity of actually thinking, and then really just use your creativity, go out and make something amazing in this world, because it's really the time of life to do that right now. So don't sit and lean back and like, let me just watch that from far away and see what happens. No, lean in right now and you will love it.
You're so right about that, Mona. And I love the breathing too, because, and Atlas mentioned about this too, is now more than ever in this time, right now, we're on the very first step of anyone can have a website, anyone can publish a book, anyone can have a television show, anyone can broadcast radio, anyone can touch every corner of this planet if they have, if someone on that planet has internet and can dial in to YouTube or a podcast or whatever, they can hear your message. If they're on the same social media platform, they can see you, they can follow you, they can be drawn to your passion, your resource, your gift. You know what? I cannot wait to do more with the both of you. I'm honored to know and meet both of you. I hope you've enjoyed being on the show as much as I've enjoyed having you. I am your host, Jessica Koch. This is Profound Professionals, industry experts doing things outside of the box from all over the world, helping improve your life and grow your business. As always, I'm going to close this with how I say goodbye, and it's please remember, be kind to yourself and be kind to each other. Goodbye, everybody.